From Washington, this is VOA News. The UN Security Council meets over an alleged Syrian chemical attack, and U.S. Private Bradley Manning gets 35 years in prison. I'm David Byrd reporting from Washington. The United Nations Deputy Secretary General says any use of chemical weapons in Syria would represent a serious escalation in the fighting there and would have grave human consequences. Jan Eliasson made his comments Wednesday afternoon after an urgent UN Security Council meeting on Syria.
This should also be seen in the larger and broader perspective, namely the great need for cessation of hostilities. We need cessation of hostilities in this particular area, but there is also a need for cessation of hostilities generally.
Eliasson said he hopes UN inspectors now in Syria will be given access to the sites near Damascus, where the opposition has accused the Assad forces of killing many civilians by using chemical weapons on Wednesday. He said UN officials are in contact with Syria's government about gaining such access, and he noted that the situation is very dramatic. Syria's government has denied using chemical weapons in its latest assault on rebel-held areas in the suburbs of Damascus. For more on this story, please visit our website, voanews.com. Former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak was scheduled to be released from prison as early as Thursday, but now the country's prime minister has ordered house arrest for the former president. There has been no official word on the timing of Mr. Mubarak's release, but prison officials say it could come as early as Thursday. However, Prime Minister Hassan el-Beblawi said in a statement that the order is contained in an emergency measure put in place earlier this month after a deadly military crackdown on Islamist protest camps in Cairo. The 85-year-old former president had been convicted on corruption and murder charges last year and sentenced to life in prison. However, a court later ordered a retrial, which was underway when the conditional release order was announced. Here in the United States, U.S. Army Private Bradley Manning has been sentenced to a 35-year prison term for handing a vast collection of classified information to the anti-secrecy group WikiLeaks. A U.S. military judge imposed the lengthy prison term Wednesday at Fort Meade in Maryland. She said the 25-year-old former intelligence analyst would be dishonorably discharged from the military and would forfeit his pay. Manning had faced as much as 90 years in prison. Meanwhile, the man accused of murdering 13 people in a shooting spree in November of 2009 at Fort Hood, Texas, rested his case after calling no witnesses to the stand. As VOA's Greg Flakus reports from Houston, Army psychiatrist Major Nidal Hassan will have a chance to present his justification for the shooting spree in closing statements set for Thursday.
When the court session opened Wednesday and the panel or jury was seated, presiding judge Colonel Tara Osborne asked Major Hassan if he had any witnesses to call. He said he did not. She asked if anyone had coerced him into the decision to rest his case without presenting witnesses, and he replied, "No, ma'am." Judge Osborne set Thursday for closing statements by the prosecution and defense. Hassan could choose to say nothing. During the past 2 weeks, as prosecutors presented detailed evidence and brought to the stand 89 witnesses, some of whom were people wounded in the shooting, Hassan raised no objections and asked few questions. Greg Flakus, VOA News, Houston.
The last 340 hours of secretly recorded phone calls and meetings from former President Richard Nixon's White House have been released. The Nixon Library and Museum in suburban Los Angeles says the final installment covers the period from April 9th to July 12th of 1973. That's one day before the existence of the covert recording system was revealed to a Senate committee probing the Watergate scandal. Jazz pianist Marian McPartland, a decades-long fixture on the American jazz scene and the host of an internationally recognized radio show about the genre, has died. She was 95. Her career spanned 6 decades, and she recorded more than 50 albums. She died in New York Tuesday of natural causes. For more on these stories, please log on to our website, voanews.com. I'm David Byrd in Washington.